Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Josh Goding, PATV Executive Director. I'm sitting here with PATV Board Treasurer Carl Hilly, and we're going to be talking about the recent Alliance for Community Media conference and trade show that we just attended in Tucson, Arizona. And we'll talk a little bit about what we did there, what we saw.
Hello,
Nice.
We're from Tucson today, beautiful day, about 98 degrees, and stepping outside in this beautiful air in this joyous place called the Marriott or something, Stars Canyon. Up here is the Tucson Mountains and the saguaro cactus, which is 40 feet high, and it's just a very nice place to be, and it's a very inspiring place. We just kind of getting used to settling in and feeling the nature is very powerful here, as the elements of Mother Earth are very healing, it feels like, and I'm grateful that we can come out of the Midwest winter and spring and come to a place and dry and bake out and renew ourselves and be beautiful again. And the rainbow side of things, like the rainbow body of light, is what we're here to do. Dancing in the desert of our lives, keeping hope alive and love in the dream time.
Just sort of toss it to you, Carl. What were some of your impressions of this year's 2011 conference in Tucson? And did you go to many of the sessions, or what did you end up experiencing?
I went to a lot of sessions. They have 6 tracks, and I was really interested in track 1, citizen journalism and social media, and I did some others, but I'll just mention the different tracks to give you a sense of all the things that are going on there. Track 1, citizen journalism and social media. Track 2, CMC, management, human resource, and board development. Track 3, fundraising and collaboration. Track 4, engineering, broadband network management and related issues. 5 is media and telecom policy. And then track 6 is community engagement, training, and marketing outreach. But the track system works like throughout the conference. Each of these tracks would have different shows. Like, for example, track 1, which is about citizen journalism. What is citizen journalism? Because you would know.
Citizen journalism, I think, is the idea of putting the responsibility of covering community events back in the hands of citizens, because there's so little local information and information that's being fact-checked that's coming from the big networks nowadays, and media is vertically oriented. So many gigantic super conglomerates own so many media outlets that it's so hard to rely on the factuality of news that's out there. It's hard to tell what's a public relations piece just being distributed by a corporation that's passing off as news. And so citizen journalism, I think, is a re-emerging phenomenon. It's being helped by the internet and by PATV, and what it really means is that ordinary average people are using new technology to cover what's going on in their communities.
Because a lot of times there just isn't news from the community. The big television stations don't cover it. They don't send reporters and that kind of stuff. So I could think of, like, for example, if a group that was interested in the Humane Society and they had some projects, they could have 3 or 4 cameras, and we could train them, and they could learn, and they could do their own projects, and we could show them, and they can tell their own story as they want to.
I think you and I both attended at least part of one of the sessions about citizen journalism, and their emphasis was on new emerging technology, things like smartphones with cameras built in, and PDAs with cameras, and these flip phones and things that go straight to YouTube. And that was kind of exciting to think about how the technology has come along to advance citizen journalism.
And the advantage of that is that it's very low cost, isn't it?
Yeah, I think definitely you can get a relative high definition image for under. Well, I wouldn't want to get into prices, but for the cost of what used to pass as a palmcorder or a consumer camcorder, you can now get some kind of tapeless, high definition device with you can launch movies up to the internet, usually with just a couple steps, and so that's really pretty exciting for citizen
And it's pretty
journalism.
easy technology for the user?
It seems to be, yeah. I mean, each of these things is slightly different and has slightly different proprietary setups, but it seems like, yeah, once you get going, they're designed to be like a one button type of deal.
So if there's an organization out there that really wants to tell their story and would like to try it, it might be a good thing if we don't have the equipment yet, right?
Yeah, it would be great if PATV had a fleet of flip cameras or little smartphone type of things that were inexpensive and real compact, and you could pass these out, a bunch of them, to an organization and have them go cover their own events and have them start making media really quickly.
And they were sturdy and maybe unbreakable would help too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is. But for example, for sporting things, you could basically do a whole thing about a basketball team or something that you cared about because maybe your children or your fellow students are playing on that team and they would like some recognition.
Before we started recording, we were having the debate a little bit about, I guess, quality versus form versus content, and I was worried about quality maybe disappearing and
Quality of the form, huh?
the quality of the form maybe devolving a little bit in light of these sort of one touch, fully automatic type of things. But you made the good point that maybe that's not what's so important right now.
So they could get started and then get motivated, and they could learn use the more sophisticated equipment later when they really want the quality.
We're really techno-savvy with all these fancy gizmos and all that, and we're really good at that, but we have very little content. And what drives what? Does content drive technology? And so content, for me, is more important than any Facebook or technology. And it's the message of content, which is very much undertoned or underrepresented in these meetings here. You don't have anything on content. You have all kinds of stuff on social networking and all these fancy, technological stuff. But I think people are a little bit overdone with that. We can do more of it. It's great, but we need content. And content is basically your storytelling element. And it doesn't need any technology. Content is what you communicate by story.
And I loved your idea about doing something like getting a fleet of these cameras and then training a group, like let's say the local animal shelter, the Friends of the Animal Center Foundation, passing them out 12 flip phones, training 12 of their people, and then having them go out for, let's say, several months and either doing daily web vlogs about the adopt a dog or adopt a pet of a day, or working on some longer documentary treatment. So I think it's pretty exciting, this citizen journalism.
They do some neat things, like when you go to the farmers market on Saturdays, they have the dogs and they walk them and the people get to see them, and I bet you they get a lot of adoptions that way, because they become irresistible. And TV would just be another way to get their story out. It's all very important for these organizations to have them a chance to tell their story, of what they think important and what they can do for the community and how they can help and how you can help them.
And I also like how they toss the emphasis back onto localism too, so that you wouldn't just use, in citizen journalism, the distribution is also important to be done locally. In other words, you wouldn't just necessarily toss them onto YouTube and be done with it. You'd want to have local sites of local aggregates of local content of interest to the community, and promote those as well as just your YouTube.
There was this guy who was at the University of Arizona, a teacher in journalism, and what he really did was a really sophisticated system to get information out to the biking community about events and all kinds of stuff. And he had a lot of people following him on the web, and he was using things like YouTube, etc. And he just increased the amount of people interested in going on activities, etc. And if there were issues like political that were involving bicyclists and the road and things like that, he could really mobilize people. So any real group that has a particular interest can really communicate with each other and the community, and it's a great idea.
I agree.
Anything else besides this citizen journalism that you that particularly liked about?
Yeah, there was one conference workshop session that was all about grants, grant making, finding several different types of grants. There's the I guess the ever elusive operational funds grant. Even though there's lots of money out there for nonprofit organizations, it's difficult to try to find money set aside just to allow you to do your ordinary mission statement. It's usually more about finding a special project and then proposing it and then doing that project and then trying to find some way to make that project fit your organization's already existing mission statement, and then you can benefit by equipment or training and maybe a stipend for people that would be involved in the project. But the problem is that a lot of the times to get the grant money, you have to do something above and beyond what you were planning to do anyway, and so it's sort of a catch-22. But there was a lot of information about that, and they were very generous in giving a whole list of different sites, especially websites, resources for all kinds of project grants, and even some of these elusive operating funds grants that I was talking about. So I look forward to working on my master list of grants and seeking some alternate funding for our organization, PATV, and that's coming up this year. We're going to see if we can maybe get a grant before the fourth quarter. So we'll be working on that.
Now, it's really important, and you have like annual meetings like this where you can actually get to talk to people who are experts and have a lot of experience and have accomplished a lot. And you can ask them questions, and you can also meet people from all over the country who have had similar difficulties and successes and share information. And you just can't do it on the phone as well as, because you meet the people and they're in the room with you and they start talking and they say something and I need to talk to this person afterwards. You get that, there's somebody who's done it before or knows a lot of the problems and the solutions.
Absolutely. I think this might have been my fourth conference, fifth if you count a regional one we went to, but I think it was my fourth international ACM. And like you're saying, one of my most rewarding things about these is just meeting these colleagues from like-minded organizations around the country, public, educational, and government channels. They're all out there doing things similar to what we're doing, and it's just so rewarding to be able to meet these people and, as you said, compare best practices and talk about problems and share resources, set up things like program sharing and get ideas from each other, because even though a lot of us have very different missions, community media stations, we're all pretty much trying to do a lot of the same types of things, and that is create local content from and for our communities. So.
There was a dark side of this visit. Is we went to Tucson, and Tucson is a city with 1 million people, and they have a very great facility to do public access TV, and through politics, their funding got drastically cut. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, that was really quite an eye opener for us. It was a poignant sign of the times that we went to Tucson to go to the Access conference, but Access Tucson is a community media center that's existed since, I think I read, since 1984 in Tucson, and they've long been held as a paragon, a very high example of an exemplary excellence in a public access station. And so recently, there's been state franchising, which we won't get into too specifically right now, but has been big telecoms have been pouring money into state legislatures, state by state, trying to buy their way out of their obligations to our community stations. And something like this has happened in Tucson, where their city council, looking ahead to state franchising, sort of cynically slashed their budget. I got to meet the executive
That's
director.
it. You get to meet the director and see, firsthand.
We met Lisa Horner, executive director of Access Tucson, and she was talking about their struggles to keep the station open just a couple days a week, just a few hours a day.
Didn't the previous station manager quit because he couldn't deal with this, and then the whole thing could have ended, but for this energy of this woman and saying we could try to save it.
That's true. I think that she came in to a sinking ship and said, we're going to try to keep this thing alive, and they're working on a skeleton crew, and my understanding is that 3/4 of their budget was slashed. They used to have $1 million a year, and they served a population of
1 million.
million people on their cable system. Wow.
Well, I mean, 1 million in
potentially.
Tucson. I mean, potentially cable must be a lot smaller, but a lot bigger than Iowa City.
And so, just the fact that if Access Tucson could be closed, it just a sign that this could happen anywhere, and we're unfortunately looking forward to fighting against similar outcome in our community, and this has happened to far too many community stations across the U.S. So one of the main things that I was working on in between the sessions in the hallways was reconnecting with colleagues, especially in the Midwest, and talking about this Community Access Preservation Act, the CAP Act, that the ACM is pushing, and has been now is co-sponsored, actually bipartisan support, which is really a nice surprise for this act, the Community Preservation Act, by Senators Baldwin and LaTourette. And anyway,
where's Baldwin from, and where's LaTourette from?
Baldwin is the senator from Wisconsin, and LaTourette, I want to say, is maybe Louisiana.
But one is a Republican.
LaTourette is a Republican. And so that is a huge and wonderful surprise. And the ACM is trying to, of course, do their grassroots and also act as our voice in Washington. But grassroots promotion is equally important. And so we've been asked to help form an Iowa coalition of local PEGs that are in Iowa.
What are PEGs?
PEG stands for Public, Educational, and Government. And those are our community stations.
Like in Iowa City, they have how many of them?
In Iowa City, we've actually got 7 PEG
Which is
channels.
unusual, isn't it?
That's quite unusual, apparently, for a community of this size. You might have to go to a place like Chicagoland to see 7 stations or more.
Like the Library Channel.
We have a library, we have Kirkwood, the university, 2 city channels, public access, of course, and the school district. And so
they would all go if potentially.
Chances are, if all that would have to happen actually is a telecom would have to announce their intent to compete in Iowa City, and then that could trigger a clause that's already exists in state franchising in Iowa since 2006, when we lost a battle in Des Moines against, it was Quest that was primarily railroading that legislation through. Anyway, if a new competitor said that they were going to build out in Iowa City, Mediacom could walk away from their existing deal with Iowa City and our community channels, and the channels could start going dark pretty fast. So that's pretty alarming to most of us. And we've got the good fortune to have a really PEG-friendly franchise right now in Mediacom. It's partly because it's an extension of an earlier franchise agreement, and we potentially have access to funding and these channels until 2019. But also, the other shoe could drop at any moment, and this opt-out clause could trigger Mediacom to walk away from the table, and we could lose PATV very quickly. So we are doing many things, but first and foremost is trying to work on this legislation. And I personally have been trying to find leaders of other PEG stations around Iowa who are willing to contact their district representatives in Iowa's 5 districts and ask them to co-sign and co-sponsor this CAP Act. So anyway, if you'd like to learn more about the CAP Act, you should check out the Alliance for Community Media's website, which we will put up on a graphic after this.
You know, also in relation to that, I think I said track 3 was fundraising collaboration. They put a heavy emphasis on this because they know that the money is not certain, and they could do so much more even if they kept what they have. But if they lose it, they definitely will need fundraising, or they'd have to cut down or even completely stop. So there was a special system customizing the Benavon model to your community media center. So far, no access TV station has used this, but this is an effective method for raising money for organizations that's been applied to, things like hospitals and schools, and started that way. And we might be forced to do some of these drastic things, especially if our budget was cut in half or something like that.
We'll do what it takes to try to stay here, won't we? So.
I hope so. We have a lot of people on the board and in the communities, the producers, who really use these facilities and think they're important rights of a democratic community.
They really are. They're some of the only places where you can hear the last, uncensored, uncommercial, diverse voices of the community, and that's why. And altogether, apparently, all the PEG stations produce more original local content than all the networks and all the other media outlets combined. So I'm not sure quite how they come up with that figure, but that's quite an impressive fact.
At the end of the conference, they showed the winners, and we saw little bits of it, but there's some really fabulously looking shows produced from all over the country, East Coast, West Coast, the Midwest, South. There's some really good programs that local people and the young people, middle-aged people, old people are learning these skills, and it's not that difficult, really, if you just work at it.
It was very encouraging, yeah. One part of the annual conference that's always enjoyable is called the Hometown Video Awards, or the Hometown Video Festival. And the Hometown, I wish they would call it the ACM Awards or something, but the Hometown is a video contest that's put on by the Alliance for Community Media. And the way that they do it is there's several categories that are up for competition. These have to be produced by PEG centers.
There are like 60 or 70 categories, isn't there, something like that?
Yeah, and there's more. It seems like there's more and more every year. They've got it really well diversified, so you can really get your program entered in the niche that you can best compete in. And then the contests are the entries are actually judged by access centers around the country. And I thought that's interesting. That's something we also do here at PATV every year. We participate. We're mailed a box of a couple different categories, and this year we get to judge children's programming. And so a screening committee here at PATV actually picked several winners that we saw win their awards. And then also we won some awards.
Now, what did we win?
We went to pick up a couple of our own awards, because every year at PATV we also enter some of our in-house produced programs, and we also try to encourage some of our community producers to enter their programs into the Hometown Video Festival. This year we won an award for the best public service announcement. That was short form, produced by our very own Timothy Tack, also known as Tack Fu, and he produced a short public service announcement about PATV has workshops. It was called the Taxi Driver Parody. So check it out. Maybe we can include it as a clip here, or you can at least see it on the PATV website, which I'll put up right now. Mm-hmm. So, and then also our esteemed board colleague John Schumacher, who went along with us, he received an honorable mention for a documentary that he had produced called Community Empowerment in the Ecological Age. And so he also received honor and recognition from the National Association of PEG Channels, or the ACM, and he'll be receiving a plaque very soon. So
maybe next year we can win more awards.
Yeah.
Hope we get some enthusiasm for that. Anything else you want to say, concluding this?
Yeah, I'm really glad we went. I was having some anticipation about Tucson in July, but it was actually quite lovely, and in addition to the benefits of the conference, we get to enjoy just the natural beauty of the desert, and you even dragged me out on a nature walk one day.
That was before 8 o'clock, or certainly before the conference began, because you wouldn't want to be in that area at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So we took some video, which you'll see. We had a hike out to old newsman's cabin, I guess, or house out in the high desert.
They had a farm there.
And what struck me was just the preponderance of those saguaro cactus, those bright green giant cactus that have they look so like human beings with the arms coming out, and they were just, there was one every 5 feet.
Every 100 years they put out another arm or something.
I was really struck by just the natural beauty. So Tucson was a great place to visit. And then we had a blast driving back to Phoenix. We saw 7 dust devils.
You saw more than 7.
Yeah.
I mean, one time you saw 7 in
Like
one
in a
field. They
row.
were just amazing. That they, they're pretty common actually, and we didn't know that.
I've never, I had heard of this, but I didn't know this was like I don't want to exaggerate, let's say 100-foot tall column of dust, maybe 20 feet wide, kind of transparent, but like a mini tornado. And one of them, I swear, nearly tried to take us off the road as we were racing to get back to our airport. And then we made it, and you maybe saw my breaking point. I started to unravel a little bit as we almost didn't make it to the
policy. Science behind it is there's a hot area and a cool area, and it gets super hot, and this thing funnels up sort of like a tornado a little bit. And they actually, in times, can do quite a bit of damage. They can blow off roofs of buildings and stuff like that.
Before I talk about next year's conference, any more observations?
But I think it's exciting. The next conference is in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And that's a doable distance from here, because we had to go, it's expensive to go to Arizona. We could get a van or carpool, and we could get a lot of people there, and you could see these workshops, and it would be wonderful to have maybe 10 people or more come from Iowa City and get stimulated and motivated by a national conference.
So what we're saying is that the 2012 ACM International Conference and Trade Show is slated to be in Chicago. They're usually in July, and we want to go because it's so close, and we're going to try to drag everybody from around here along. And boy, the Midwest region has been great about giving scholarships. We should have mentioned that we want to thank them for actually giving scholarships to a couple of us to get in to the conference. So we got ourselves there. PATV got us there. But
you had to use your own money for yourself.
I paid to get in.
Yeah, but we had 2 scholarships, and that was a wonderful opportunity to do that.
And maybe next year, maybe PATV can get a few scholarships to try to get some of our producers to go to Chicago if they could, and maybe we can help out with some matching funds and stuff. That would be, I think, worthwhile to set aside. I think what's really great about these conferences is that when you're doing access, you have a very good sense of what's going on in your own community, but you're sort of cut off and isolated from what's going on in the rest of the access world. And when you go to these conferences, it just opens up the top of your head to the bigger picture of access, about how this is a really exciting phenomenon, public access, and all the people out there that are
exciting people doing great
people.
things all over the country, and you don't know about it, and we don't see their shows, but there you get to meet them and see a little bit of what's going on.
Well, thanks a lot for listening to us reminisce about the ACM, the 2011 ACM International Conference in Tucson, and I've enjoyed talking to you today, Carl.
I hope some of you are excited and really want to go and are interested in the future of public access TV. And this is one way to really learn a lot more about it.
And check out these graphics we'll be showing you now. Come check us out on the web for more information about the CAP Act, the Alliance for Community Media, and public access television. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.